So Terry, let's start off by telling everybody, who is Terry Shannon?
Well, yeah, I'm a snowbird down here. I was, a Minnesota boy originally. I was involved in law enforcement up in that was my career in Minnesota. And years ago, my wife and I took a vacation, come down to Florida, and we went down the West Coast. Went across Alligator Island, Alligator Alley, come up the A1A, and we stopped at the McClarty Museum, and that's all it took. And, I've been having a love affair with Florida ever since.
That's awesome. And I hear you do some metal detecting. How long have you been detecting for?
I've been detecting, and I really got into it is when we actually come down here about 15 years ago. And when you say that I'm kind of into metal detecting, I think it is kind of bypassed being a hobby and is now more of an obsession. When we first came to Florida, we stayed we had a fifth wheel camper, and we were camped right on the beach. And everybody was camping around us, got pretty interested in what I was doing and what I was finding. And then one of the girls one day said that, come up to my wife and said, for alcoholics, they have an intervention. For drug addicts, they have an intervention. Maybe we should have one for Terry. And so that was just all in joking. And that day I found a couple really beautiful rings, and they called off the intervention and put in their orders. So.
That's awesome. It really does. Once you get bit by that metal detecting bug, it's all you can think about. It's all you want to do. Going out, finding that next target, figuring out the next time you're going to get out, that's always on your mind.
It is, and it's just a wonderful hobby, absolutely a wonderful hobby. I'm going to be 79 next month, and,
wow.
There's a lot of people, wow is right. And, if I'd have known I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care. But, I met a guy on the beach, a couple of years ago, and I'm out detecting, and he walked up to me, and he said, I just love to do what you're doing. He says, but I'm just too old. And I said, well, how old are you? And he said, 68 years old. And here I'm 76 at the time. And it's one of the big things on the benefits of this metal detecting is the exercise you get and the friends you make. I mean, it really is a wonderful, wonderful hobby. It really is.
Does your wife detect, Terry?
No, she don't. She likes to walk the beach, and she does remarkably well at that. But she is very interested in what I do. In fact, I've given several talks to different clubs and different organizations, and she always goes with. And she just does a wonderful job. And it's really amazing because when we were married, she was a very shy girl, but now, boy, she can speak right up.
Let's see here. I'm going to see if I could turn these captions on. Somebody's in here who is deaf. I'm not sure how to do this. If there's anybody out there who's watching and knows how to turn captions on, please let me know so I can turn them on so that Willis can hear. And we do have a bunch of people joining. Kelly, Kevin Mitchell, Leilani, Rachel Wallace. A lot of people are joining to hear what you have to say, Terry. So you talk about the beach. Are you more, is that what you primarily do? Are you a beach hunter?
I'm a beach hunter here in Florida. I mean, the Treasure Coast is just a wonderful place. It's got all kinds of mysteries and it's treasure. There is a lot of treasure out there. I think we all know that, back in 1715, there was 11 ships that came out of Cuba. They come up along this coast and they got caught in that hurricane, and they've only found 6. So there's still 5 out there, and on one of the ships is the Queen's jewels. The king had gotten remarried, and he got remarried, and his wife, agreed to marry him without a dowry, but she wouldn't consummate the marriage until she got her dowry. And of course, that was a big priority for the king, and he rounded up that dowry and ordered the people to leave, Cuba in July, right during the hurricane season. And like I said, they all sank. And that ship out there, where there's, I think, 6 or 8 chests of jewels from the queen or her dowry that haven't been found yet. That's just exciting. It really is.
It is, absolutely. Now, you're down on the Treasure Coast with all that history. Have you ever found anything related to any of the Spanish fleets that went down?
Actually, I've done really well. My very first coin, we had a storm, and at that time we were in our camper right on the beach, And that storm, it wasn't a hurricane or anything like that, just high winds, and it was quite a storm. It went for 3 days. And on the fourth day, I was out there, and it was just unreal. I even had a 5-gallon pail I brought out there to put the sinkers in. And that's the day that I found my first Spanish coin. I found a 1701 2 real,
Oh, wow.
and with the data. Yeah. It was just amazing, because I think that was my second year, and just trying to find something like that. And I could see it. I knew what it was, and I put it in my pocket, and then I'd walk 2 or 3 feet and, take it out and look at it again. It was just a really exciting time. You only have one first coin. And this last year, I got a half real. A couple of years ago, my friend Jerry and we got into a spot. We found 5 8 reals above the high tide lines, laying right on top of the sand.
Wow.
And what we think it was is that, it was during a full moon. The people that detect the treasure coast should really watch the moon phases. I mean, that's very, very important. When you have a full moon or a new moon, your tides are much higher. They go up higher and they go down lower. So it gives you, high ground, higher ground to hunt. And it also, if you follow the waves out, you can get out where you normally can't get out. But on those 5 that were laying there, with the waves that come up all the time, there's about every 10th or 12th wave, there's one big one, just a surge. And I believe that's what was pushing these coins up. And I found a beautiful 8 real, and it's a 1711 coin. But this year, I think I had the best year that I've ever had. I got 1/2 real, and the year was winding down, and I'll be darned if I didn't pick up what I believe to be probably the oldest Spanish coin ever found on the treasure coast. It's a Carlos and Ioana. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. 2 real, and it's dated 1504. Well, it isn't dated, but it's identified as a 1504 to 1516 coin.
Wow.
And the way they identified it was by the assayer. And this assayer, he was only involved in these coins for 4 years, those 4 years, and 1516 he resigned. So it pretty well narrows it down. And it's just a 2 real. It's a beautiful coin. And, I'm really excited about it. And do you realize on a coin like that, that's like 50 or 60 years after Columbus landed, and they talk about Ponce de Leon down here. That's a big thing.
Yes.
Well, it would be 30 years after Ponce de Leon, visited our shore. So, I mean, to me, that's probably the best coin I'm ever going to find. I mean, it wouldn't be a big deal if I was over in England. If they found a 1500 coin in England,
Right.
They wouldn't get excited about it at all. But on our soil, I mean, that's a pretty old coin.
Very.
And I had it cleaned. I had trouble cleaning it. I worked real hard trying to get it cleaned. We used this muriatic acid, and it just didn't touch it. So I took it down to West Bay Trading Company in Vero Beach, I'm sorry. And Steve Hodges cleaned it, and he just did a wonderful job. In fact, he still got it down there, but I found a second coin that at the same time that kind of worn smooth, but it had the same type of incrustation on it. It acted the same way that the 1504 coin acted. And so Steve has a process that he figures can bring up some detail on it, and it takes about a month, and he's doing that now. But I believe I may have even got the second one, so it's pretty exciting.
That's amazing. I've never found anything that old at all. I found some Chinese old coins from the 1700s, but nothing like that. I know a lot of people. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, when I found it, I wasn't sure. I could see a little bit of the shield on it. I could make it out through the incrustation, but I wasn't sure exactly what I had. And I called Jerry, the friend of mine. He come down. We both were looking at it and couldn't figure it. And then that night, he called me up and he said, asked me what it weighed. And it was like 6.5 grams, I believe. And he had just found a 4 real that weighed 13. Wow. So a 2 would be just half of it. So, and then I took it to an expert, and he identified it for us positively. And in fact, I think I had 3 different people, and they all come up with the same answer. So it's pretty sure that's the date.
That's amazing. I know here in Florida, everybody, not only us that live in Florida, but people come from all over the country, all over the world to detect the Treasure Coast. And they go out for a week. Most people don't have luck doing it. I've never had luck down there yet. How persistent are you at going to the beach? Is it daily that you go, or is it just really paying attention to the tides and the moon to know when to go out?
Well, I pay a lot of attention to the tides and the moon and that stuff. But yes, I'm out there almost daily. And what I try to do is get out there about 3 hours before low tide. And then I follow the tides out. If you go out on the beach as the tide is going out, you might look at the beach, it's kind of steep angle going down to the water. And by the time the tide is all the way out, it's no longer steep angle. It's flat. And what happens is as tide goes out, it's dropping sand. So if you follow the tides out, you're going to get wet, but you're going to be able to reach some stuff that normally, like an hour later aren't going to be available, be covered up with wet sand. Right. But the recovery stuff in that, but it really pays off. And I did that for years. I mean, and I'm still doing it. It's very important. But I didn't realize about the big effect that the moon had and on these tides until we found those 5, laying above the tide line, just laying on top of the sand. And from that point on, it's just another weapon in your arsenal. So when we have a full moon, I got 3 or 4 days that I do nothing but hunt up high exclusively. And that's where a lot of the stuff is. It's not, some of it's washing in, but a lot of it's washing out.
Okay.
Yeah, if you find a real black coin, normally that's one that says washed in, and the ones that are washing out are more of a green color. They kind of turn green because of the copper content in the coin.
That's very interesting. I did not know that. Wow. And Kevin Mitchell in chat, he said it's really interesting listening to you. When you're out there, Terry, on the beach and you're detecting, are you gridding? Or I know there's different ways to grid: parallel, perpendicular, zigzag. What type of gridding do you usually use?
Well, what I do on the beach is I go up and down the beach, when I'm starting out in the morning. I'll probably get up early and I'll drive up and I'll check the beach's many spots. And what I'm looking for is what I call a bowl, or it's formed by these riptides. So as you walk out into the entrance of the beach, you look north and you look south, and way down there you can see where the water's coming in farther than every place else. Mm-hmm. Then that area has been washed out. That's what allows the water to go in there, and that's caused by your riptide. And as the tide is coming in, if you've got that, it'll keep digging away, and it actually works its way back towards the bank, and you're able to detect areas that's been covered for years. And that's supposed to be. Everybody knows about the cuts. When you get a cut, be out there in the beach and work that cut. But the riptides are that's a big thing. So and I watch the moon phase. When we have a full moon, then I can go all day long. I get up in the morning. It doesn't make any difference what the tides are because I'm hunting up high above the tide. It doesn't affect me.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely, it did. Now, when you're out there detecting, what type of detector do you use? Do you have more than one detector?
Okay. I have enough detectors now that I can buy one and bring it home, and my wife doesn't even know there's another one. I'm a firm believer in backups. I have backups for my backups. But for years, I was absolutely sold on the old Sovereign, with that WEB coil, And I mean, almost all the real good stuff was found by the Sovereign. And then when they come out with that new MindLab 3030, and that's a heck of a machine, but I've had 5 surgeries on my arm, and it was just a little heavy, and I traded it in for an Equinox 800. And the more that I work with that machine, the more impressed I am. I have done phenomenal with that particular detector. There was a spot down at Turtle Trails. I went down this year, in fact. I went down to Turtle Trails, and everybody headed south, and I headed north, of course, and wasn't finding anything. So I come back south, and this friend of mine said they're finding musket balls. Mm-hmm. And everybody had detected this area out. It was cleaned out. I mean, it looked like a garden. Everybody had spaded it up. I went in there with that Equinox and pulled out 20 more musket balls. It was just amazing. And I had kind of a similar experience with shift spikes. We got into the shift spikes, and I found just a ton of shift spikes from that. But you're talking about gridding. I got some videos out there detecting the Treasure Coast. In fact, I just wrote a book that's going to be coming out very shortly. In fact, it's in for the printers right now on detecting the Treasure Coast by myself, of course. But on the grids, when I'm going along, and if I find an area that's loaded with targets, I grid. I go up and down towards the water, up and down. And then when I get all done and I've got it totally cleaned out, then I'll go parallel. And it's amazing after totally cleaning out how much you'll find on that second pass. And if I'm really into some other stuff, additional stuff, I'll go at the angles and that stuff. You never get it all. And it's amazing. I think I'm a pretty decent detector, and it's amazing how much stuff I'll find in my footprint coming back when I'm reading that type of thing. So you got to kind of overlap. But when you're into the target areas, really work that area. Another thing that you've got to, which you should watch, is you can be out there all day detecting, but if everything is buried so deep, and it is right now because they've been dumping all kinds of sand or replenishment sand on the beaches.
Yes.
But if you're out there detecting, swinging that detector, and all the targets are 2 foot down, you're not going to find anything.
Right.
And so what you do is you look for these low areas. That's where these bowls come in, where that's been washed out, that you can get down to it. And when I found that, 1,500 coin, I was looking down there, and its area looked low. And I walked down there, and I could see where there's a crab called a ghost crab, and they burrow into the sand.
Right.
Okay, there's a whole bunch of them that had burrowed into the sand down there, and they're bringing up this foreign sand. That's the original beach. So, I'm down to the original sand. When I see that, I get all excited. And that area was not very big at all. And I worked it real hard, and I didn't get that 1,500 coin until the second day. And the second day I pulled that one out. So it's just, when you find a good area, work the heck out of it. And another thing that I believe, and I know that the experts will disagree with me, but, I believe that, like, they're going to go into the gold rings and stuff like that. I believe that stuff washes up and down the beach, and I've been told that gold stays right where it fell. And I don't believe that's true. I had a friend of mine, right when we still had our camper on the beach there, went out right in front of my camper fishing, and he lost his wedding ring. And I found it 3 days later, about 300 or 400 yards south on the beach. And washed that way, and that length of time. And Jerry, this friend of mine, he found a gold class ring that he was able to return to this guy that was lost for like 50 years. And it was a good 10, 15 miles from the beach from where the guy said he lost it. So it moves, so, and, if I go up to Cocoa Beach, for example, and go out on the beach, there's a lot of people there, and they're dropping stuff and that, but there's also a lot of guys with detectors out there. I went there that one time, and I'm detecting, and I looked around, and there's 7 other guys out there with detecting. So what I do, I concentrate most of my effort between these popular beaches because the stuff moves. So you're much better off detecting where the conditions are right. And it's really just a common sense type thing.
Patrick Huntley has a question for you. He wants to know what the most valuable ring is that you found on the beach.
Okay, I've got a couple. I had a friend of mine called up and said that I've got more than a couple. I've got a whole bunch actually, but there's a friend of mine called up and said there was a bowl or riptide up there. He detected it all day, and he was going to go up to Cocoa Beach the next day, and maybe I should give it a try. I pulled out a 2-carat diamond ring. I think I got 5 gold rings that day out of that one deal. Another one was a big ring with 33 diamonds that I wear. And then a couple of years ago, I was walking on it's really one of the main beaches, but I was just walking. I had found nothing, and I mean nothing, not even And I got a signal, and just a stretch of beach. I scooped down, and this ring, when I dumped the scoop, this goes rolling down the beach, and I picked it up. It was a 4.7 carat emerald ring with 16 diamonds around it, set in platinum, and I took that to a jeweler and had it appraised at $11,000. So
wow!
But I don't get to keep those rings.
Do they go to your
wife? My
wife?
wife takes. Yeah, and it just makes my whole day. It really does. It's just nothing's too good for that lady as long as I can find it.
Yep, and that's why she decided no intervention. You keep bringing home those rings.
She is very, very supportive of the hobby. And I appreciate it. She's out there walking, every day, and so, I check in with her. What did the beach look down there? Was there any, cuts down there? Was there any bowls down there? So that's another thing I should tell that when you're out there detecting on the beach and that, talk to people. I've made friends with the guys and gals that are out looking for sea glass or looking for shells, that type of thing. And they're a great resource. Here's a guy coming down, he's picking up sea glass, and he's come down from an area I haven't been before. I said, what does it look like up there? And I actually now get calls from some of them people saying, hey, this looks really good. You ought to give it a try, Terry. So, having a support group, if that would be the correct word, is it's important too. Talk to people, visit with people, and that you can learn. if you learn one thing of everybody you visit with, you haven't wasted your time at all.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I've said that plenty of times. Just talking to people, you find out a lot. That's your best resource, whether it's, I guess, on the beach or relic hunting or whatever it is. Just talking to the people. They want to talk and they want to help because they want to see what you find. It becomes a thrill for them, even if they're not out there detecting themselves.
Can I tell you kind of an interesting story? I should
Yeah.
say funny story. I went south from the trailer park here. We actually bought a mobile home right here in the trailer park because of the ocean was just eating up. I had a brand new truck and the camper, and the salt air was just eating it up. But anyway, I'd walk south and was finding nothing, and I come into this big bowl, and it was just loaded with targets. And there's a fisherman standing right in the middle. So I walked up to the guy and I said, I've walked a couple miles now and I'm finding nothing. I said, right where you're at, there's all kinds of targets. Would you mind moving a little bit? And the guy was really nice. He moved, And the first target I got was a beautiful bronze tip spike. They go way back. And then I got a diamond ring, and it was a really nice diamond. I think the diamond was probably a carat and a half or something. It was a nice looking ring. I never show people out on the beach what I found. If I do get wanted and they want to, I feel I have to show it to them. I'll ask them first, do you lose anything? But anyway, I showed this guy and he said, my gosh, that's beautiful. He said, do you mind if I show it to my buddy Tom? And I said, no. So Tom come over and he asked me all kinds of questions. He was just all excited about it. Well, then a few days later, I'm down on that same stretch of beach and this old fellow, he was fishing out there. He said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm detecting, He said, what are you looking for? I said, ring, gold ring. And he said, well, there's an old guy that comes down here and finds all kinds of gold rings. Old guy, and I ended up talking to two other fishermen that said there was this old guy down there. And I asked them how they heard about this old guy. And they said, from Tom. So Tom was telling all these people about the old guy who was finding all kinds of rings. I found one, Then I have this friend, Peter Tobia, that is a real good guy. And he's got a home up in New Jersey and one down here. And Peter called me up and he said, Terry, how are you doing? And I said, fine. And he said, are you finding anything? I said, no, it's been pretty slow. And he said, are you sure? And I said, well, gee, Peter, I should know. And he said, I heard that you found 20 gold coins. You got 10 of them down south by the inlet and 10 of them up here where they had the radar tower. So that one individual ring turned into 20 gold coins. It's just,
Wow. That's crazy.
It is, and so you hear all these stories, and I guess you got to kind of just evaluate it before you get all excited.
Yeah.
Because
well, I wanted to give a shout out. Todd joined. He said, good morning. And Patrick wants to know, I think you kind of already answered this, but what's your go-to detector? What's your favorite detector?
Right now, the favorite detector by far is that Equinox 800. It's a light detector, and I've got the big 15-inch coil, and I've got the 6-inch coil. I have not used a 15-inch coil maybe 20 minutes tops. It's a heavy, but I get incredible depth with just a standard coil. Mm-hmm. I did run into a situation where south of where I live, there was on the beach, there was an old swimming pool that washed out and dropped down. And that area of the beach is just absolutely filled with junk, metal re-rods and stuff like that. And I went down there one day, during a full moon, we had high tide, with that little 6-inch coil, pulled out a gold ring and a bunch of coins. So, I mean, if you had to choose between two coils, take that little 6-inch one and then the standard coil that comes with Equinox. It's a heck of a machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you belong to any clubs, Terry?
Oh, yes. You can see my shirt. I belong to the Treasure Coast Archaeology Society down here in Florida. And then I belong to a club, the Tri-State Metal Detector Club up in Chaffee, North Dakota. Okay. And, if you're near an area where there is a club, I recommend strongly that you join one of these clubs. I mean, talk about resources. And you meet some wonderful people. They have club hunts that you get involved. I've done real well on these clubs. I've won, I think, 3 or 4 Spanish coins now at these hunts. And I think 3 or 4 detectors that I've won. And I'm an old man. I'm not very fast compared to a lot of these guys, yet I've done well, Mm-hmm. So join a club. It's just great.
So Ray Jones wants to know, have you heard of anyone having issues with the company that owns the rights to the 1715 fleet? What are some of the rules down there?
the rules are that you can hunt from the low tide line up to the dune line. You can't go into the dune. And but I believe, and I'm not sure of this, but I believe 5 miles north of the inlet is about the end where they have these rights. I've never run into a situation, but I've stayed out of the water. I haven't detected the water down south, but I haven't had any issues. If it's on the beach, it's fair game.
Right.
They have a new law that's coming up now, and it's not a new law. It's been on the books forever that you have to notify the state and turn anything over 50 years old. Oh my God, that's a Roosevelt dime. I mean, that's ridiculous. I don't think they enforce those.
Yeah. There are those rules have been on for a while, but like you said, it's like almost just turning in a coin from the 70s that's not even silver. It makes no sense. But I have heard, I mean, the dunes are completely off. I do know after the hurricanes, when those dunes get destroyed and go down, boy, you can find some amazing stuff that come out of the dunes because the sand falls down. Have you had any luck with that, Terry?
Very much so. Yeah, I think the first coin I found was one that come out of the dune. That 2 real, the 1701 2 real, that come out of the dune. And that one last year, I believe, came out of the dunes. It was green, and I had Steve clean it. Well, I cleaned it, and then had Steve finish it off. And it's just a magnificent coin. And that stayed at 1711, but that come out of the dunes. It was very green, wonderful detail. So I've also got some coins that have washed in that you can barely make out the cross on them. They get, the ones that are out in the water, they slide back and forth. They get worn down pretty bad,
Right.
But it's still treasure. It's still
It
treasure
is.
and a piece of history. When you put it in your hand, you're holding something that nobody has touched for 300 years. And it would be just so wonderful if you could know the story. What is the story? I've got a silver shoe buckle that I found. And that silver shoe buckle, was that somebody that drowned during the thing? I don't know. I think probably it had to be. It wouldn't be a sailor, because unless it was one of the captains of the ship, or that, because a silver shoe buckle, that was pretty expensive back in the day. So it had to be worn with somebody as well. And another interesting thing, a couple other interesting things that I found. I had a spot, and I really wanted a ring from the 1715. I mean, that's my goal. That's on the bucket list, way up at the top. And I told my wife, I said, I'm going to get a ring today, because I knew the spot was opening up, and it was a big bowl of, the high tides are coming way up, the full moon. And I got this beautiful little ornate ring. And I called my wife and said, I got one from the fleet. I'm so excited about this thing. And then I found a gold band, and I just stuck the gold band in my pocket. The little ornate ring had a marking, it was 14 carats. It was a modern ring. And the gold band was a posy ring dated back to the early 1600s. And inside the ring, in Old English script, it says, godly love will not remove. And, it had a maker's mark. I took pictures of the maker's mark, sent it to 2 different groups over in England. And one group dated it at 1604, the other one at 1654. So it's 1600 both ways.
Wow.
But, so it just isn't 1715 stuff you found. Last year, I found a pendant, a gold pendant. And we believe that gold pendant come off a funeral mass for either the Incas, the Mayas, or the Aztec Indians. And I talked to some experts. And this first fellow I talked to, I don't know if I should use their name or not, But anyway, he knew exactly what it was, told me how it was made, that stuff. And he said, these things are low carat. When you find them, they're low carat. And when the Spanish started coming over here, and they were taking all this stuff from the Indians, they smarted up and a lot of the stuff, gold that found after then that come from the natives was low carat, 6 to 8 carat gold. And mine is 22 carat or above. It's almost pure gold.
Wow.
And so he said that had to be a couple hundred years before the Spaniards got involved. So, that's another 1,500 artifact that come off Treasure Coast beaches. And I've had archaeologists look at it, and they agreed. In fact, one archaeologist sent me a picture of another pendant, just very similar to the one I got. And so there's other stuff other than just the 1715 stuff there. And there's, can't forget the modern stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, Terry, talking to you has been such a blast. I'm really a relic hunter. I don't really go to the beaches too much unless it's hot. Then I'll go down to the beach. But boy, to find something that old, I found one spike and that's it. but you really inspired me to get out there. I want to go find something really old and something maybe from a fleet or something.
Well, all the stuff. Well, it's there, and you and I have to go out after. We'll have to go out together. We'll line up some hunt stakes here. But all that stuff I talked about is in this book that I'm just. It's going to be. It should be out within a month. Detecting the Treasure Coast. A lot of pictures and a lot of how-to stuff in there, and everything that I've got in there is my opinion. Everything I said today is my opinion. It doesn't make it, it's stone, but it's stuff that worked for me.
Right. I'm definitely going to get that book when it comes out, and I'll have to let everybody on here know when it comes out too. I want to leave on one more thing because we went over a little bit. I can't believe the half hour flew by so fast, Terry, but what would be your advice that you could give to any new hunters out there? The best advice you could give them?
I think the best advice I could do is, get a good detector. If you are short on money, rather than get a cheaper detector that's going to end up as life in the closet, get a good detector. And if you can't afford a good one, buy a used one. Buy a good used one at half the price. And then join a club. Talk to other. You'll learn more from other people. I started out. I detected for a year on my own, and then I joined that club out in North Dakota. And that first meeting, I learned more in that first meeting than I did the entire year that I've been out experimenting my own. So that's my beliefs anyway. And this half hour has gone really fast. I really enjoyed it, and I thank you for inviting me to come and visit with you for today.
We might have to set up another one, Terry, because this has been really, really awesome talking to you, and the viewers are really enjoying hearing you talk. So we're probably going to have to set up another one of these sometime soon. Maybe after
Well,
your
I'd
book
be more
comes
than
out.
happy.
All right.
Okay,
Well,
thank you so much, Karen.
thank you so much, Terry, and everybody have a great day. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you tomorrow.